The Dallas Cowboys lose to the Green Bay Packers once again. How did it happen? We break it all down on this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On
Cowboys.
Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That is PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, the Dallas Cowboys lose to the Green Bay Packers 31-28 in overtime. Your instant reaction is?
It's disappointing. You know, I mean, it's a team that they had a 2-touchdown lead on, and
in the fourth quarter.
And the fact that they were unable to kind of close the deal on either side of the ball, honestly, is just incredibly frustrating. And it just seems like it's more of the same with this team. And you know, it's the fact that it's Aaron Rodgers obviously makes it even more of a Groundhog Day effect to a large degree.
So, in case you didn't see this game, it was a back and forth game all game long. The Cowboys did get a 28-14 lead with like 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, something like that. Green Bay scored touchdowns on their next 2 drives. Cowboys had a chance to win it in regulation. They got the ball. I think it was 2:29 left on the clock. All 3 timeouts at the 25-yard line. Didn't even get a first down. Punted it back to Aaron Rodgers. They got to stop. And then we went to overtime. And then once you got to overtime, the Cowboys walked the ball down the field, failed on 4th down, and then Aaron Rodgers did the rest. Want to start with this, Landon. On Friday, I said to you, if the Cowboys were to win this game, I think I would start to change my expectations of what this Cowboys team could do this season, right? But with this loss, it's going to be really hard to think that they can do anything different than they did last year, because this feels a lot like deja vu, right? You beat some bad teams, you go up against a good team on the road, and you just can't put them away. How should we have any faith that they can go on the road in playoffs and beat a good team?
Well, I mean, you're going to have plenty of opportunity next week to test that faith again, because they're going to have to go against a team that beat the Bills today, and that's 7-2, and that's an actual competitor for your playoff spot. So
actually, I think they're 8-1 now, aren't they?
Oh, 8-1. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing about the NFL is you get a chance to prove everybody right or wrong another week. I think, you know, for the Cowboys, it's, you know, I mean, there's a reason that this was a scary game for us, you know, going in. I mean, obviously there's lots of things that could go wrong, and that certainly did go wrong. I do want to point something out, though. I mean, I do feel like the thing that's really frustrating is that the Cowboys were given basically a free opportunity to win this game, even despite everything. I mean, Green Bay basically gave Dallas an opportunity by wasting the last minute and a half of the game, or whatever it was, with bad clock management, giving the Cowboys an opportunity. And you know, they weren't able to do anything. I think the thing that's really frustrating to me about this game is that, you know, both your offense and your defense were given multiple chances to win this game at the end of the game, and it just didn't feel like anybody could take advantage of it.
I mean, we could go through all the different kind of pivotal points in this game, whether it was a 3rd and 5 from the 5-yard line and Dak throws the interception, or whether it's, I think it was 4th and 7 with 8 minutes left, and the Packers go for it like at midfield, basically, right? And you feel like, hey, if the Cowboys stop them, they're almost in field goal range. The game is over. Instead, it's Christian Watson for a touchdown, and all of a sudden it's a 1-score game. The Cowboys had the ball 3rd and 4 from the 35-yard line in overtime. Didn't gain a yard. It's just tough. They had all the opportunities in this game to make a play, and they just couldn't get that one last play, whether it was a tip pass or a big chunk play in offense. They just couldn't get it. And it's really, really frustrating because it just feels like, is this team ever going to be able to get over the mental block of, hey, we're just can't beat good teams on the road? Like, are they actually going to be able to do it? Because I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we won't know until we keep trying, and honestly, it certainly isn't encouraging. I mean, and I think honestly, like, all the talk about what happened at the end of the game also kind of pushes aside the fact that this team played terribly to start this game, and like, the fact that they were the matter is that they were able to pull themselves back into this game and then pull ahead by 2 touchdowns. But I mean, I think the thing that's frustrating to me is just we can't seem to get any consistent play, and it's not
across
just
the board from anybody.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's anybody. It's just Dak. It's CD. It's the offensive line. It's
Micah didn't have a good game today.
Micah didn't do anything today, really, other than he had a ton of tackles, but he didn't really provide much in the pass rush. DeMarcus Lawrence really had a good game, but I would say almost every other single defensive end in this game played pretty awfully. I just, and I think that's where it's coming up. But it's just it seems, and I don't think that they only play good against bad teams. I think they play well against good teams sometimes, but they're incredibly inconsistent. And that's not a mark of a team that is, looking to kind of make a long playoff run. I mean, you kind of have to get into the playoffs and not blink all the way into the Super Bowl. And to me, like, this just still seems like a team that is going to get in its way early or find a way to shoot themselves in the foot when they just can't afford to. Sometimes they're good enough, they're talented enough to get over it. But, I mean, when you play the really good teams that don't do those things, they're just as talented as you. And on top of that, they don't make those mistakes.
The reason why it feels like a little bit of a mental block to me is like the Bucs and Packers are bad football teams this year. And you lost to both of those teams, right? And the Bucs game was at home, and I know Dak got hurt at the end, but the offense played terribly in that game. Yeah. And Tampa Bay walked the ball up and down the field. And Green Bay has injuries galore in this game, and they put up 31 points. And I think Rodgers completed like 4 passes in the first 35 minutes of this game. And you lost. It's just, I don't know what else to say other than it's extremely frustrating and discouraging long-term for the Cowboys. Like, I don't know what they need to do to get over this hump. I don't.
I mean, just there's nothing to do. Like, it's not like there's like a formula or something. You just got to go out there and turn it around and win. It's not like these guys aren't capable of doing this. I just don't believe in that stuff. I just think that they have to find a way to go out there and do it. I mean, and that's the thing is that it's like just maintaining play for like those 2 or 3 extra plays. It's and that's the difference, right? Is just like making those 2 or 3 extra plays that the Cowboys just didn't do tonight, and the Packers did. It's 2 or 3 of those third down and shorts where they get long completions that that shouldn't have happened, and suddenly they're touchdowns, and that's the difference in the game. It's like they're going to have an opportunity, a more important opportunity, honestly, next week to do something about it against the Vikings. But it is incredibly kind of, there's just not a lot of trust to be built there. That the team is going to do this like to believe that the team is going to do it. Until we kind of get more visual proof of it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to the last 2 years. Well, with Mike McCarthy, it seems like every big game that they've had, whether it was what they played the Cardinals later in the year when the Cardinals were 9-2 or 9-3 at that point, and they played terribly in that game. They lost to Tampa Bay. They lost to the 49ers in the playoffs. Like, just it feels like whenever they've had these big statement games that they could make, they struggle. They do have some of these in the division where they play well, right? They typically play their division well, but it's just these other NFC opponents, for whatever reason, they just can't get over the hump. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it all week. But let's talk about the offense. But before we do that, we want to tell you about a new sponsor. This holiday season, find what you love at Total Wine and More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite single barrel bourbon or the perfect gifts for everyone on your list with some help from a friendly guide, and all with the confidence of knowing you found something special for the absolute lowest price. Find what you love what you find, only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly. B21. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys offense. At times, Landon looked really good. They ran for 159 yards in this game. CeeDee Lamb had 11 catches for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. But way too many drives that they just bogged down or couldn't get that first down, or a guy that got stuck like in the middle part of the field. I don't want to say their offense played poorly today, because that's not the truth. It's just inconsistent is the way that I would describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I it's hard to think that. It's hard to look at what Dak Prescott did and think it was a net positive, honestly. I mean, I think he played mostly okay, and he made some good throws, but it's hard to get the taste out of what we saw early out of our mouths, and then when we needed some big plays at the end of the game, it just didn't feel like they were kind of there to be made. And I mean, honestly, I think CeeDee Lamb's performance to me is like such a great an indication of the problem here, right? Is that like he had, I mean,
I got the numbers right here. It was 11 catches for 150 50 yards and 2 touchdowns on 15 targets.
And then on like 2 other plays, including 2 of the first 2 interceptions, he runs the route wrong. He draws coverage into the middle of the field, and they threw an interception. He runs another route where he decides to go behind the safety instead of in front of the safety, in front of the safety's face after Dak has already thrown the ball. And like that's like a great example of what we're dealing with, guys.
I'm not sure the first one though was his fault.
Well, no, but maybe that wasn't necessarily his fault, but I mean the problem was that him and Dalton were in the same area when they were not supposed to be.
Well, and that's what's so frustrating to me is it's not like Dak and CeeDee and Dalton Schultz haven't been in this same offense for years and years and years, right? And Michael Gallup is the same way, and Noah Brown. Like these things shouldn't be happening at this stage of their career where they're still running the wrong routes, and guys they're not supposed to be where they're I don't know. It's just, again, it's just consistency from snap to snap. They just don't have it on offense.
Yeah. And again, like, I don't know that it's not like, I don't think it's something where it's like they're not knowing the playbook. It's more like they're not seeing the defense the same way, and yeah, it's just frustrating, and whether that means they need to be less reliant on those kind of option route tag stuff that like you're running a route this way or that way dependent on the coverage, like just to make sure that you're getting everyone what they need to be, like whatever we have to do. But this getting somebody like we've been talking all week about getting Odell Beckham into this offense or in whatever. It's like they need to find stability with the players that they're in. Like Odell Beckham is only going to add like maybe 2 or 3 touches a game when he's
maybe
healthy.
But you also saw a problem in this game that Green Bay was not afraid of any other player on Dallas's offense outside of CeeDee Lamb, right? Michael Gallup, they were just did Michael Gallup create any separation outside of one play he had on a zone where he just kind of found a soft spot? Like he was not open. Noah Brown, we love Noah Brown, but like not creating separation. 1 catch for 3 yards and 3 targets. Michael Gallup had 35 yards and 7 targets. Sean McEwen and Peyton Hendershot and Jake Ferguson combined for 1 yard on 5 targets. Like nobody else on this offense scares defenses. And it's so apparent that Green Bay was putting a ton of guys in the box, daring the Cowboys to throw the ball deep, and they absolutely couldn't.
I don't know that Odell Beckham helps you with that. Like that's
maybe he doesn't, but I think he gives you somebody else that you have to be a little bit worried about. I just don't think teams are afraid of Michael Gallup and Noah Brown at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the problem wasn't getting the ball down the field. To me, it was getting the ball off and down the field. It wasn't getting the receivers down the field. So, but I don't disagree. I mean, like I think that you need more people getting more open down the field. It can't just be CeeDee Lamb. I just think that they, it's not going to really matter like who's out there running routes if people aren't on the same page, like, and adding another guy who may not know the playbook as well, or may not see the offense the same way as the quarterback. I think it will help, but I think it doesn't help with all the other guys that are on this offense that you need to tighten up and just like run the plays correctly at times. That's what's, I think, frustrating to me.
You mentioned Dak earlier. I gotta say, I was pretty disappointed in Dak today. He had a chance to be the hero of this game. You're tied at 28-28 with 2.5 minutes left and all 3 timeouts at your 25-yard line. All you need is a field goal. All you need is 1 or 2 big plays. And the way that series went was first down, 3-yard gain. Second down, the snap was kind of low, and Dak panicked a little bit and just threw a dirt ball to Noah Brown. Third down, he kind of panicked a little bit again, got outside the pocket and threw a ball to Michael Gallup, who was completely covered. And that was it.
Well, he was being sacked, wasn't he? Wasn't that the play that he was being tackled to the ground as he threw it?
No, that was in overtime.
That was the overtime. That's just overtime.
Yeah, and even in that one, okay, so he had that play started out 7-yard run to Tony Pollard, 15-yard to CeeDee Lamb on an awesome catch. And then it was a 7-yard run by Pollard, a 9-yard run by Pollard, a pass deflected that was supposed to with Sean McEwen. It was a 16-yard run by Malik Davis. A pass to Dalton Schultz, incomplete to CeeDee Lamb on a slant, incomplete last play of the game. Like, just want Dak to show up and make a couple big plays and just give you a chance to make a field goal. Like, give yourself a shot to make a field goal on either one of those drives, and it just didn't happen.
He played
tough.
Poorly. I mean, there's just no way around it. Like, I mean, even with 3 touchdowns, he just didn't play a good game. He was, he completed close to 50% of his passes, and normally I'm not like a stat book watcher, but like I think we saw a lot of big plays that kind of made us forget about how off he was early in the game, and I think part of it is that his footwork didn't look right. Like, I think he was having a hard time with the footing there, and that was kind of making him struggle to get his feet around quick enough to set and throw correctly at times. But I mean, there's no excuse. Like, everyone else is having to deal with it.
In the red zone interception at the beginning of the game, like, that ball has to be thrown high, and if it's not to Dalton Schultz in the back of the end zone, it's going into the first row of the stands. Like, you absolutely cannot afford to have a red zone interception there unless the only way that you throw that is unless there's somebody wide open. You gave up 3 points, and then the Packers got great field position and scored a touchdown, I think 4 plays later. Like, those are the huge momentum shift plays in a game that you absolutely cannot have.
Yep, I agree.
All right. It's tough. Let's talk about the defense, Landon. But before we do that, we want to tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Trust me, you're going to want to have something to take your mind off this Cowboy game, whether it's on Sunday night, Monday Night Football. How does it work? All you have to do is pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePick projection, you win. And you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch. This includes NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. They are currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada. Download the PrizePick app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match. If you deposit 100, they'll give you 100. You deposit 50, they'll give you 50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys defense. Aaron Rodgers did it to him again. He got the ball in overtime, only needing a field goal, and he was able to have a couple of big chunk plays, including a 36-yarder to Allen Lazard to beat the Cowboys. What went wrong for the Cowboys on defense in this game?
I mean, they couldn't afford those chunk plays. Like, they couldn't afford the long passes. They 200 yards rushing, they could have gotten away with it. But the chunk plays, that was the difference. And being able, like, look, I mean, on that play specifically, Bland just fell down. and Lazard was wide open and just was able to make what was basically ultimately fatal play against us in overtime. I think
Rodgers averaged 11.2 yards per passing attempt today.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem, right? Is that like you can't allow both. You can't allow an efficient run game and an efficient pass game. You can afford to have them run for 5 yards a carry if you play it right and if their offense is not able to throw the football, but you can't do both. And I think ultimately they weren't able to generate any kind of pass rush. They weren't able to get off blocks on the edge in the run game. I would have liked to see the refs call the holdings a little bit different, a little bit the same as they were, especially at the end of that game and in the overtime game. It felt like things were being missed, but at the same time, like that's football. You gotta win those matchups. You got to get off the blocks.
You're the far more talented team. Like you got to be able to overcome some of that stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, they did to a large degree because they put themselves in such a hole up front with their play. And then, Green Bay kind of helped them out a little bit, and you helped yourself a little bit with some turnovers, which at least got the ball away from them. But, it's frustrating that the Cowboys can't seem to like capitalize on turnovers, right? Like the only way they seemingly are able to score is like when they start on their own 12 or 15 yard line. They can only do these like long drives. Why can't they do some of the simple stuff? That's what's, really just so frustrating. And, for the Cowboys defense, it was just methodical and you felt like they were keeping it in front of them for a while, and then once they got Watson loose a couple times, the dam broke, and there was some bad tackling. Bland started to show up a little bit in a negative way near the end.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they would pick on Joseph more than they did, and they still did have some success on him, but he didn't look terrible. I just think that when they had the opportunity to throw the football, they had time to throw the football, especially near the end of the game. It didn't feel like there was Aaron Rodgers facing any pressure after Sam Williams' sack.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to run a very efficient offense that basically the Cowboys defense, short of that one situation at the end of regulation, the Cowboys defense just didn't seem to be able to stop.
One of the things that's getting really concerning is that this defense is amazing on 3rd and long. Absolutely amazing. They're like off the charts on like 3rd and 8 or better. They never got to a 3rd and 8 or longer in this game.
Yeah.
There was 1 3rd and 5 or longer. It was a 3rd and 7 in this game. I mean, it's really hard to play defense if opponents aren't getting to 3rd down altogether or are 3rd and short every single time. They've got to find a way to create some negative plays on 1st and 2nd down or stop teams for no gains, because this style of offense of just letting teams run the ball down your throat on 1st and 2nd down is just killing them. And this is back-to-back games that they've given up at least 28 points. I'm officially starting to get a little bit worried about this defense. I am.
Yeah, absolutely. You should. I mean, like, this is not nearly the best offense that we're gonna face going forward, and if there's other look, you can say what you want about Chicago, like, because I think they had a running quarterback that makes it very difficult. That's kind of a one-off. That's a hard situation to kind of replicate week to week. There's nothing special about Green Bay's running game. They have 2 good running backs and a decent offensive line, but lots of teams can have that, and certainly lots of teams that you're going to be facing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the Cowboys got to figure something out here, whether that means playing more Basham and playing more guys who have a little bit more stoutness on the edge so they can get off and make tackles. I don't know, or if they got to find something to kind of disrupt what's going on 1st and 2nd down, because it doesn't really matter how good you are at 3rd downs if you can't get these teams into those disadvantageous positions.
I kind of make notes as these games are going on, because it's easy to go back and say, oh, this wasn't a big drive or whatever. But over the last few weeks, there's been a couple big drives that the Cowboys have had, and they haven't got off the field. A perfect example against the Eagles a few weeks ago. The Cowboys scored a touchdown to make it a 2017 game. The crowd's completely quiet. All you need is a stop to potentially go win that game. And the Cowboys give up 13 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown, and the game is basically over at that point. Against Green Bay, There was a ton of them. We mentioned the other one, the 4th and 7, where the Packers scored a touchdown to make it a 1-score game. The very next one, like, hey, the Packers have to go the length of the field to score a touchdown, and they do. It's just there's these games where the Cowboys just need one drive on defense to put it away, and they can't do it. And it's why as much as this defense is praised and how talented they are, I still don't really fully trust them when they need to get a stop. And that's a bad feeling to have.
Problem is you can't trust either of these offense or the defense at this point.
No,
and that's not a great place to be. So they need to kind of come out and prove otherwise. I mean, I think I'm willing to, like, sorry, I have an alarm going off.
That's all right.
I think I'm willing to kind of like overlook a little bit here and there, but like this is a trend, and this is like something that is, especially since this team is supposed to be so reliant on its defense, that you worry about moving forward. So again, they're gonna have to kind of prove that to us at this point and kind of get back in our good graces for us to like trust that they're a top unit still.
Cowboys 6-3 going into a Week 11 game next week against the Minnesota Vikings, who are 8-1. They'll play them at home before playing on Thanksgiving. I don't want to say it's a big game, a must-win game, but I mean, we're at the point where you kind of need to beat one of these really good teams that you're going to see on the playoffs in the road. We'll obviously have all week to talk about that. We'll have all week to talk about this game, as I'm sure you and I are looking forward to going back and watching all the film. Should be absolutely miserable. But that is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I am at Marcus_Mosher. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow.